SANDHAN, All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
The topic for this lecture is rhythm and intonation. What does that mean? This is an important aspect of connected speech. And what is connected speech? When we talk, we put together a number of words. Can we begin at the beginning? How did you learn the English language? You learned the letters, the alphabet, 26 letters. Then you put those letters in different combinations and you had words. Then, once you had learnt words, you came to know, you learnt, you were taught how to make sentences. And what is a sentence? You string the words together. But you can't string the words any way you please. There are certain rules. Maybe a small child of 2 or 3 can speak the language without attention to what word comes first and what word comes last. What is the order that word should have? Because remember, in the English language, unlike say Sanskrit language or Latin, the ancient languages of the world, it's not very important where you place the word. That means word order is not very important. But in the English language, as in most other Indian languages, the word order is important. So we are going to talk about rhythm and intonation. That is, we are going to talk about an important feature of connected speech. You know the word rhyme. Please don't confuse the word rhyme and rhythm. Rhythm is something which is inbuilt in the language. Rhyme is, when we talk of poetry, you remember you've got rhyming words. And though this is not very poetic, when I say hill and fill or bat and cat or king and sing, you know that I'm having pairs of rhyming words. But today we are going to talk about rhythm and intonation, an important part of the spoken language. When you write a language, you cannot feel the rhythm. There is no intonation. So, if you remember the lecture that you heard on accent, the word accent, there too you would have noticed that word accent or stress shift, etc., or syllable division are important in spoken language. So too with rhythm and intonation. It is a feature of the spoken language and connected speech. So, can we try and define connected speech again? What is connected speech? An utterance of several words. It is related to stress in individual words. Okay? So rhythm and intonation is related to stress in individual words. Remember your lecture on word accent? Remember talking about listening to division of syllables, words into syllables? How monosyllabic words don't have accent, how words other than monosyllabic words in the English language do have accent. And why do we need this? To make a distinction between neutral statements and a special emphasis. I can just say I do. Do you like coffee? I do. But if I want to emphasize, then how do I say it? I say I do. I'm stressing the word do. Do you like coffee? Do you like coffee? I can make a neutral statement and say I do. But if I say I do, and I could also say I do, or I do, depends on what I want to emphasize. Remember that when these words come together in phonetic, that is, when we speak the words, the language, when we hear it, what happens? What happens when we hear it? There is a stress in some word or the other. I'm repeating that because you might wonder, how can monosyllabic words have stress? Because in word accent, we learned that monosyllabic words do not have stress. But remember, here it is a feature of connected speech, and therefore Look at these sentences. Can you read them, my dear students? He came. Meet me at 10. Take the dog for a walk. John and Bob are friends. This is the house that Jack built. Buy me a pen. Turn to your right. I ran a race. Have you met my wife? I lost my bunch of keys. I want to buy a pen. Sing a song. Let's take one sentence. He came. He came. He came. Say that. I'm telling you that he has come. He did come yesterday. I did see him at college, and therefore I say he came. He came. The stress is on came. Meet me at 10. Meet me at 10. What do you have to do? And when. There are two words which are important there. One is meet me. Meet me. And when? At 10. Notice that the word at does not have any stress. Notice that we are following the same rule that we had when we talked about stress for individual words. Do you remember that lecture where we talked about the horizontal bar before the syllable which has to be stressed? Do you remember that? My dear students, remember that whatever you are learning in one lecture will have some continuity with the next lecture, or maybe with a lecture 3 later. Remember that all this is related to the spoken part of the language. It's a paper where we talk about phonetics, where we talk about speech, and therefore accent, rhythm, and intonation, etc., pitch, tone, stress, stress shift. All these are terminology, a part of the terminology that you have to remember. So can we read these sentences once again? And I'm going to pause for 30 seconds after each sentence, because I want you to try saying that loudly or to yourself. But remember, you have to say it. You cannot look at it. You cannot do what in school we called silent reading. It cannot be silent reading. You have to read it aloud. So I'm going to read it. Pause for a few seconds so that you can read it again. So can we begin, my dear students? He came. Meet me at 10. Take the dog for a walk. Take the dog for a walk. We're doing that again. He came. Meet me at 10. Meet me at 10. Take the dog for a walk. Notice that articles are not stressed. Prepositions are not stressed. Take the dog for a walk. Take the dog for a walk. Are you asking yourself, is that the way I speak? Of course, that is the way you speak. But I'm making it clearer by stressing it a little more. Just say, take the dog for a walk. Take the dog for a walk. Doesn't matter. But notice how the stress is there. Take the dog for a walk. Take the dog for a walk. What are the 3 important words? All the words in these sentences, my dear students, are monosyllabic words. But when they become connected, when they are connected into sentences, some of them receive the stress. So what are the important words? Take, dog, walk. Not the, not for, not a. So what do you say? Take the dog for a walk. John and Bob are friends. John and Bob are friends. This is the house that Jack built. This is the house that Jack built. This house Jack built. I hope you're saying it after me, because the practice will give you an idea about the rhythm of the English language. This is the house that Jack built. It's a long poem actually, which some of you might have learnt at school. Buy me a pen. Buy me a pen. Turn to your right. Turn to your right. I ran a race. I ran a race. Have you met my wife? Have you met my wife? I lost my bunch of keys. I lost my bunch of keys. Lost bunch keys. I lost my bunch of keys. 10 sentences. I'm going to read it again, and you're going to say it after me so that you're getting the stress the rhythm. He came, meet me at 10, take the dog for a walk. John and Bob are friends. This is the house that Jack built. Buy me a pen. Turn to your right. I ran a race. Have you met my wife? I lost my bunch of keys. I want to buy a pen. Sing me a song. Right? Monosyllabic words being connected together to form sentences. Words in isolation which do not take a stress. But when they come together in sentences, there is a stress pattern in the English language. What happens? You have wasted. They are preparing. You shouldn't play with. Notice, there is something at the top of the page which you can't read very clearly, but even then, you require to permit. You require to permit. If you look at these words which take the accent here, when they come together, when these words are taken in isolation also, my dear students, I want to draw your attention. The stress will be on the same syllable. I'm repeating that. If you look at a word like wasted, 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 if you take it in isolation as a word, the syllable waste would take the stress. When you put it in a sentence, it is again the same. Let's look at sentence number 20. Please permit me to present my case. Please permit me to present my case. Permit, present, case. Case is a monosyllabic word, but it's an important word in the sentence, and therefore it does have to take the accent. Permit, present, permit, present, permit, present. Say that after me, and you would notice in isolation too, the words take the accent on the same syllable in which we are giving it to them in the connected speech. I want you to notice that. How do you notice it? Only by saying it. Because by looking at it and the horizontal bar there, the vertical bar there, you don't really understand anything. You will have to say permit, permit, permit in order to understand that. So please permit me to present my case. I'm disgusted with your behavior. I'm disgusted with your behavior. My dear students, all these sentences are from your textbook. So you can always go back to your textbook and read these sentences. I'm taking only some sentences as examples, but I want you to try and read all the sentences so that it becomes clear. I want you to do it. I want you to do it. I want you to do it. Where is the stress? I'm going to read it again. I want you to do it. I want you to do it. One stress. I want you to do it. I want you to do it. I want you to do it. My dear students, please listen carefully to all the three ways in which I'm saying the same sentence. I want you to do it. That's one. I want you to do it. I want you to do it. I want you to do it. I can shift the emphasis by the stress, by the accent that I'm giving in connected speech. Let's listen to that carefully again. I want you to do it. That means it's me, your teacher, your lecturer, your professor, not your mother, not your friend, not your aunt, not your grandparent. I want you to do it. The second one is, I want you to do it. I want you to do it. That means not your friend, not your brother, not your sister, not your neighbor, not your classmate. You should do it. And the third one is, I want you to do it. I want you to do it, not just to listen about it, not just to talk about it, not just to think about it, but I want you to do it. So in connected speech, this would give us an idea about what we are giving importance to. Where is the emphasis? Where is the stress? Is it I? Is it you? Is it do? Can we hear that again, my dear students, carefully, with full attention? And will you say that after me? Please listen to it carefully first, all the three forms, the three ways in which I'm saying it to indicate what I want to emphasize. Where is the stress? What is important? First listen, and then we shall say it together again. I want you to do it. 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 And I want you to do it. So can we say that again? I want you to do it. Again. I want you to do it. I want you to do it. Again. I want you to do it. And third, I want you to do it. I want you to do it. Get how it changes. Accent leads to rhythm. What is rhythm? My dear students, for those of you who know music, you know there is rhythm. We can measure rhythm by the tal. It's important to understand that in spoken English also there is a rhythm. It's a rhythm-based language. And how do we get this rhythm? We get this rhythm by the accented words. That means in the spoken English, the accented words come almost at equidistance from each other. And this is what gives it the rhythm. Let me say that again. You already know what accent is. You know what stress is. Once there is accent, once there is stress on one word, you will not have a series of stressed words one after the other. There will be words in between which are not stressed. Let's get that again. There's a stressed word and then some words which are not stressed. Another stressed word, again some words which are not stressed. And in this way, what happens is there is a rhythm to the language. Tom has just returned from London. Tom has just returned from London. Notice, Tom has just returned from London. Notice the rhythm. Gopal's friend Patel received a prize from the president. Gopal's friend Patel received a prize from the president. My friend has arranged for my return trip. My friend has arranged for my return trip. It's not as if you can exactly count the number of syllables, but it's quite equidistant. And this is what gives rhythm to a language. Remember the chapters that you will be looking into, my dear students, in your textbook. Accent and rhythm in connected speech. What are the words that take the stress? And what are the words that don't take the stress? In order to understand this, my dear students, you have to understand the difference between strong and weak form. What do I mean by this? In school, you might have learnt the two articles a and an. When you learnt the articles, the teacher probably said a and an. But when I talk about cup, you know which article should go with the word cup, not an but a. But when I say these two words together, I never say a cup. What do I say? I say a cup. What am I saying? The strong a, the article a, becomes a. So you have the article a followed by the word cup. The word cup begins with a consonant and therefore the article should be a. Wonderful. This is something that we learned in school. Of course, we know that. So I have the article a and I have the word cup. But how do I say it when I say it together? I don't say a cup. I say a cup, a cup, a cup. So if you look at the screen, you will see that I have a list of strong forms and then I have the weak form. So a becomes a, an becomes un. Let's come down a little further. Am becomes right? R. You know the phonetic script, my dear students. So in fact, you don't even have to look at the English spelling. But in case you have a doubt, if I look at the word A-R-E, I first should remember, how do I write it in phonetics? Well, when I say the word R, I don't say R. There's no R in the word. I say R. So how would I be writing it? I would be writing it A with 2 dots, remember? R, as in car or in park. So, but the weak form, when I say it together, we are going to the garden. We are going to the garden. I do not say we are going to the garden. I don't say it that way. How do I say it? We are going to the garden. We are going to the garden. Can you say it after me, my dear students? Let us look at the words individually. What are the words? We are going to the garden. These are the words that I'm using in my sentence. But what happens in my sentence? We are going to the garden. We are going to the garden. So what has happened to the word are? It has become a. And so on. So can becomes kun. Shall becomes shall. You have the strong form and you have the weak form. What are the importance? What is the importance that we attach to this? When we say the word individually, if I try to write the word in my phonetic script, I would be writing the strong form. So if I have to write the phonetic script of am, I know that a in phonetics is the, how it is a combination of the letter A and E put together. So I write a and then I write ma. But when I write it in connected speech, it becomes I'm going to school. I'm sorry, you're going to college, right? So I'm going to college. You would be saying I'm going to college, not I am. You won't say that. So that is the importance of learning the weak form. Go back, look into your textbook, and I'm sure you will understand exactly what we have tried to do here. First, we have the English spelling, followed by the strong form. That is the way that we would write it in phonetics. So am. But what happens when it's used in connected speech? I'm going to the garden. It becomes not I am, but I am. So what happens? You have the inverted E, which is the So you have I am becomes I'm going to the garden. I'm going to the garden. A cup of tea is the way you write it in English. But when you say it, and if you attempt to write it in phonetics, it would become a cup of tea, a cup of tea. So it will become the weak inverted Then you've got cup, of becomes of. The inverted the weak the inverted E, followed by V. Because you don't say of tea. You say a cup of tea, a cup of tea. So try saying it, my dear students. That's the way you say it. But you've never noticed that's the way you say it. Because not one of you is going to say, I want a cup of tea. You're not going to say it that way. How are you going to say it? I want a cup of tea. I want a cup of tea. So notice how the weak forms become important when you're talking about rhythm in English language. Because as I told you, stressed words are equidistant. So what is unstressed? The weaker words are unstressed. And to just give you an idea, these could be, for example, they could be helping verbs, they could be articles, they could be prepositions, etc., which do not take the stress. What are the other words where we can have the weak form? You can have conjunctions like and becomes and, as becomes as, than becomes then, that becomes that. Notice what is happening, my dear students, in all these words is that there is a vowel change. there is a change in the vowel. Remember, the consonant is almost the same, except in a word like off, where I told you it becomes ver. Otherwise, notice that in all these words that I'm giving you as example, it is the vowel sound which is becoming weaker. And when the vowel sounds become weaker, they do not take the stress. So what happens? You've got stressed words, words which take the stress, equidistant almost. And what is there in between? In between you've got these weak forms. And what are these weak forms? Where we use, for example, the weaker. The same sound which is there at the beginning of about, allow, around, away, astray, ashamed, not a. So the a of apple, for example, or the a of an becomes the weak which is written with the inverted e. I'm just saying the inverted e, but you know what the sound is. The sound is a. And so on. We've got many more examples. That is as far as rhythm goes. Having understood rhythm, we have to understand intonation. And what is intonation dependent on? It is dependent on the voice. And what is voice? Voice is the vibration of vocal cords. Almost at the beginning of this paper, when your teacher was talking to you about the organs of speech, your teacher probably mentioned the vocal cords, which you can feel, my dear students, if you look at me, if you see what I'm doing, if you put your finger here very lightly, maybe one finger, and as you speak, you would notice that at some stage there is a movement here. We also call it the Adam's apple, but it is the vocal cord. So can you try saying per and burr? Say per and burr. Say fur and ver. Say sir and sure. Ker and ger. Remember, these are the pairs you learnt when you were learning the phonetic script. And remember that page where you looked at affricates and fricatives, and you learnt about plosives, you learnt about voiced and voiceless, and you talked about manner of articulation and place of articulation. Remember that. You have to go a little back to remember what I'm talking about. And at that stage, your teacher told you that voice is produced by the vibration of the vocal cords. So if you put your finger here very lightly, don't press it, and say per and say burr, per and burr, you would notice that in one it moves, and when it moves, voice is produced. The second that we have to understand is the word pitch. Pitch is the frequency of vibration. And intonation is caused by the patterns of variation of pitch. It is caused by the patterns of variation of pitch. Intonation can change the meaning, and therefore intonation becomes a very important part, a very important characteristic feature of connected speak. A speaker says something, the same two words, probably with different intonation. The same two words with different intonation can give us two different meanings. The same intonation, the same two words with different intonation can give us different meanings. Will you come tomorrow? When a friend asks you, will you come tomorrow? You're probably planning to do some assignment together. So your friend asks you, will you come tomorrow? And you say, I will, I will, I will. Notice that there is a change. I will? You're exclaiming. Do you think I will? I will? Notice that the intonation, I will, Do you think I will? Do you think I should? The meaning is hidden. And you say, I will. Flat, I will. Okay? So intonation, the same words, when said with different intonation, can have different meanings. And that is why intonation is very, very important when you are speaking a language. It's not true only of the English language, though the English language has more importance attached to intonation. All languages do have some kind of intonation patterns which we automatically pick up when we speak that language. A syllable on which a pitch takes place is usually marked with one of the following signs. Okay? This is what you have to learn for the written part of it. We change our tone, the intonation, according to what we are saying. What I've shown is how you mark it, but more important for us is to understand how to say it. How does this intonation take place? Do you remember that lecture where we talked about word accent? And when we talked about word accent, we talked about division of words into syllables. So also, every utterance is divided. How is it divided? Some of you might have heard some songs where the singer doesn't seem to take any breath at all. And we say he breathless. We call that song breathless. I'm sure you've heard some songs. Well, when we speak, we need to take breath. What does that mean? I need to pause. When I look at a sentence like, we had a wonderful time. We had a wonderful time. Say that, my dear students, after me. We had a wonderful time. I can do it without a pause. There is no need to divide that sentence into what I call breath groups. I can say that continuously. Can you say that once or twice and see whether there is any pause? We had a wonderful time. We had a wonderful time. No pause. But what about the next sentence? When you go out, shut the door. When you go out, shut the door. You can't say it that way. How do you say it? When you go out, shut the door. So what I call a breath group can also be understood as a sense group. What does that mean? What does that mean? I pause so that the meaning gets clearer. Let's read that sentence again. When you go out, shut the door. When you go out, shut the door. Can you break the sentence into when you go? Shut the. I'll read that again. It's becoming confusing because the meaning is not clear. When you go out, shut the door. It's a breath group. It's a tone group. It's also a sense group. What does that mean? The meaning gets clear. When you go out, shut the door. Two parts to the sentence. I take my breath there, I pause, and then I continue. In written language, it is indicated by a punctuation mark, the comma. So what do you have? When you go out, shut the door. But we had a wonderful time. You don't have to say we had a wonderful time. You don't do that. How do you say it? We had a wonderful time. But in the second sentence, when you go out, shut the door. How should you understand this, my dear students? That a breath group means I pause for breath. But this pausing for breath is directly related to what can be called a tone group or a sense group. That means I pause in such a place that the meaning gets clear. When you go out, shut the door. If you want to take breath like this, the meaning gets all mixed up. You can't say when you go out the. You can't say that. I'll say that again. Wrongly. When you go. When you go out, shut the door. Can I say that? No, I can't. I will have to say, when you go out, shut the door. If you go there, you will have great fun. If you go there, you will have great fun. Notice that the breath group is directly related to the sense group. I pause when I speak so that the meaning gets clear. When I write, I put a punctuation mark so that the meaning gets clear. I have a long sentence, but I'm going to repeat the sentence, reading it in different ways. Can you just read the sentence silently? Yes, of course you can. I want you to take the dog for a walk. I want you to take the dog for a walk in the park. I've just read it without any meaning. I want you to take the dog for a walk in the park. Say that. No, that's not the way we speak. We speak with different ways, depending on what is it that I want to stress. We talked about it earlier. I'm talking about it again to make it clear to you that this intonation, which is related to pitch, which is related to stress, which is related to meaning conveyed, is important because the listener must understand what I'm trying to say. I want you to take the dog for a walk in the park. Remember, we talked about rhythm. See how beautifully the rhythm comes. I want you to take the dog for a walk in the park. Park is the tonic syllable. I want you to take the dog for a walk in the park. I want you to take the dog for a walk in the park. You can't take it to the city mall. You can't take it to the bus stop. You can't take him to the station. You have to take him to the park. I can change that by reading, I want you to take the dog for a walk in the park. I want you to take the dog for a walk in the park. I want you to take the dog for a walk in the park. I want you to take the dog for a walk in the park. Please understand what is it that gets the maximum stress, which is called the tonic syllable. That is the tone, the intonation, the stress is on that. You can also try reading that again by deciding that the first time you read it, the tonic syllable is park. The second time that you read it, it is walk. And the third time you read it, it is dog. That means the first time you read it, it is only the park and not anywhere else. The second time is only for a walk. And the third time is that it is the dog and not the cat or the goat or the cow or whatever. So we read it this way. I want you to take the dog for a walk in the park. I want you to take the dog for a walk in the park. I want you to take the dog for a walk in the park. How do I learn this? I will need to practice. And how do I practice? It looks as if it's going to rain now. It looks as if it's going to rain now. Okay? It looks as if it's going to rain now. The nucleus is rain. Come down a little bit to the third one. I'm afraid I can't help you. I'm afraid I can't help you. I can talk to you. I can listen to you. I can take you out. I can buy you a cup of tea, but I can't help you. So the tonic, you notice the nucleus, the most important part of the sentence is help. If you look at it, rain. Okay? So look at the word, for example, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity. Now what happens in a word like that, in a sentence like that, we have to look at opportunity, tunity. Where is it that the stress comes? Okay? That girl's very beautiful. I'm reading the third one from the bottom. That girl's very beautiful. Where is the nucleus? Beau. Okay? That girl's very beautiful. Intonation is important because the tone. Intonation is important because it tells you whether you're asking a question. My dear students, you should go to page 158 of your textbook. page 158 of your textbook to understand how intonation works. How does it work? By whether it's a falling tone or a rising tone, whether it's a falling, rising tone. A statement is flat. The teacher was looking for you. The teacher was looking for you. The teacher was looking for you. If you go into a lab, where you have this apparatus which can probably record your voice, then you would be able to see what happens. The teacher was looking for you. And what happens when it's a question? When can you come? When can you come? And I say, do you play tennis? Do you play tennis? And therefore, it is a falling, rising. The teacher was looking for you. When can you come? And do you play tennis? So remember, we need to understand when it is that we use a particular tone. Because you're not going to tell your friend, see, it's rising and therefore it's a question. See, it's falling and therefore it's a statement. You can't do that. The way you speak, whether your tone is rising or falling, okay, you would notice even the word yes, you can say it differently. Yes, yes, you mean it's yes, right? So it would be rising and yes would be falling. Can you say that after me? Yes. Do you like tea? Yes. It's a statement. And you are surprised that your friend is asking you a question like that and you say yes. Notice, yes, it's rising. And suppose you say yes, yes, rising and then falling. So what happens? Depending on what we want to convey, we will choose the tone. What have we done in this class, in this lecture, my dear students? We have tried to understand the features of connected speech. In order to understand the features of connected speech, we have first gone into rhythm. And what do we mean by rhythm? The hidden, the underlying sound scheme of the language, which is like the tal in music. So you have the rhythm of a language. And what causes the rhythm of the language? The stress patterns. How do we understand the stress patterns? Because some words are stressed and some words are not stressed. What are the words that are not stressed? We talked about the strong form and weak form. Once you've understood rhythm and understood that rhythm in connected speech in English has its own almost music, because what is stressed is equidistant. That means between two stressed words, there is always some distance. And this distance is almost equal. That is here, then you have one here, then you have one here. That means it is equidistant. So we understood the concept of rhythm. Having understood the concept of rhythm, we went on to intonation. We talked about voice and pitch being important. And voice and pitch is what gives you intonation. And how do we look at intonation? We understand whether it's a statement, whether it's a question, whether it is a rising, falling. Do look into your page 158, from page 158 of your textbook, to understand what intonation is. That is, how is it that you have the rising or the falling tone? Before we end this lecture, let me quickly read to you some of that. When it's a statement, you've got a fall. Thanks. Yes. Okay. When you have a tag question, for example, it's a lovely day, isn't it? Isn't it? Notice that it falls. You can have it for exclamations. Pity. How surprising. When? Etc. When do you have a rising tone? When you have a WH question, for example, when can you come? Can you? Etc. You can also use a rising tone for commands. And then you can have the falling rising tone. John's here already. John's here already. She is beautiful. So you have the falling tone, you have the rising tone, and you have the falling rising tone. My dear students, the only way to learn all this is by practice. And how do you practice? Practice it with your friends. Practice it to yourself, maybe, by standing in front of a mirror and watching how you are uttering these words. Say it continuously so that you have the concept of connected speech. So in this class, we have looked at rhythm and intonation, which is an important feature of connected speech in English. Thank you, my dear students.
SANDHAN All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.